So it's now 2 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Um, Nice of you all to show up. Thank you for coming this week. And yeah, so this is what we will be drawing today. We're going to be keeping on with the brush pens. And yeah, I will wait for another minute or so and then we will get started. So for today's lesson, like I said, we're doing brush pens. So I will mainly be using the bold one, like last week, but you can use the medium or the fine one. You also need a pencil and eraser and some sort of paper. I'm using some Bristol paper, so yeah. All right, so we are going to get started here with some pencil. And yeah, we're going to start by sketching out what we're going to be inking today. So I am starting with my pencil and we're going to start by adding in our like ground or bottom of our sea floor here. Yeah, so I'm going to be starting out by adding in a couple of big shapes here. So this is my like sea floor area. So I'm adding, it's kind of a rounded shape and one of the sides is a little bit wavy like so. Maybe a little bit shorter than that, but so we're going to be starting off with two of these sections here, one on the other side, kind of going with the same shape. Like so. For who just joined, this is what we are drawing today. And we are just starting on our pencil now, so yeah.
Please make the picture, teacher. Hello, teacher, I want to make the picture, please.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I late. Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, thank you. Done.
Sorry, excuse me, I'm late. Can you tell the paper what size and the pen? What number?
Yes, so I am using the bold one mainly for this. But I also have the medium one. You can use a fine one, but they're like brush pens, right? So that's the size of it. I can't remember what specific size they are, but I'm using the medium and the bold.
Okay, can I take a picture?
The pen? Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wait. Thank you. And then the paper, what size is it?
The paper size, I am not sure. I mainly just cut my paper to preference. I think it's about 8 inches or so. By 6, I think is what it is. 8 by 6.
Excuse me, Shuyi, can I repeat the paper size?
Yes, I'm not sure, so I'm just grabbing a ruler. So it is 11 by 8. That's the paper size.
It is. Let me take a picture. I cannot see.
Thank you for calling, though. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Zoe, I cannot see.
Oh, this paper?
Yeah,
Or this one?
paper size.
This paper is 11 by 8.
Oh, 11 and 8. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh. Hello. Yes,
Hi.
it is cold, but I'm already in May. Okay, talk to you. Bye. Thank you.
Hi, Zoe.
Yes.
May I take a picture of the original sketch?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, of course.
Thank you. Got it.
All right. We'll get started. Okay. So
can I just look at the original pencil drawing for 1 minute?
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't have all the right things, but this is the first time I've come, so thank you.
No worries about the right pens or anything.
I've got a few things.
Yeah. So the thick pens, like the brush pens, we're using more for the difference of size in like pen stroke. You can use any sort of outlining pen though.
I've got a couple here, yeah. But I don't have I'll have to find out what we need after.
Yes, there should have been an email that went out. I can email it again, or I can get it emailed out again.
Oh, thank you.
Of just materials. Yes, I will talk to Daxton about that.
Hi, Zoe. I just have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a new member, like I just joined maybe 2 weeks ago. Do you guys have a special group or a special email group that I can get information from?
You should have been added to it when you joined.
Okay.
If you type your name in the chat, I can email who's in charge of it, and I can see if you're added or get you added to it.
Okay, sounds good. I'll do that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've been mine too.
Yes, I wrote your name down.
Oh, you did? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I am here for you guys, so whatever you need. So we are going to get started here. We had started just a little bit drawing in those basic lines for kind of our base of the sea floor here. So this shape is what we added in just now. Yeah, so we will keep going from there. So from here, to make this look a little bit more three-dimensional, we're going to add in these lines here. So it looks like it's a cliff edge. So adding those in, they are quite, like I slant them rather than going straight down. Yeah. So from here, we're going to add in some rocky shapes to our cliff area here. So this is making it look a little bit more three-dimensional on top of our flat surface. So I'm going to be adding in some of the like rock-ish shapes that we were doing last week. So making them like very rounded at the top triangles. And we're going to be using those to build up a foundation of shapes here. So I'm adding in a couple of them kind of near the middle front-ish area and then right up at the back of our cliff line here. And for those who are new, I would like to say that if ever you need me to go back and do something again, please just let me know, and I'm happy to repeat something or show you a little bit more in depth of how I do something. Yeah.
Are we sketching all this in pencil?
So we start in pencil,
Okay.
and then we move on to inking. So
Right.
we'll be doing not as in depth of pencil as we were doing with our pencil unit. All of the previous classes can be found on YouTube as well, just under the MPC Foundation name.
Oh, okay, on YouTube.
Yeah. So this inking class, we do a little bit less pencil and a little bit more focus on the inking. Yeah.
Do you have the previous classes on YouTube too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So all of the units that we have done so far throughout my teaching, most of all of the classes from the MPC Foundation are on YouTube. Yeah. So from here, we're going to add in some coral shapes. And to do that, I'm going to start with some rounded shapes. So I'm kind of going in with circles, and I'm adding in a couple just around. So we're going to be doing the rounded coral shapes first, and then we will be adding in some of the more regular coral. So I'm adding in a couple of like almost circles. They don't have to be perfect, like perfect circles, and I'm just adding them in, and we will add our detail to them in just a second here.
Yeah. Teacher never see this again. Queen.
Sorry, can you repeat
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah, I know.
Please?
Okay. Then, yeah, see now.
I can't see.
I can try to draw darker if that might be helpful. I am sorry for my hand being in the way quite often. I try to move it out of the way as much as possible.
It keeps going off screen and names just keep popping up.
Oh, yes. I thought I had it pinned. Oh, there we go. That's what it is. There we go. Now it shouldn't do that.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not very good at Zoom. All right, so from here, we're going to add in our coral like textures. So I'm going to start by adding a zigzag outline to the shapes we just added in. And this is
That's in
definitely
pencil. You're still in
Yes.
pencil.
Still in pencil. I will say before we move on to inking. I do like to do more of my almost finished sketching a little bit darker. So you can see I'm going very light here, and these squiggly lines are a little bit more dark. And that's just so I can see what I'm outlining clearer. So from here to add to the coral, I'm going to add in a bunch of squiggly shapes to fill up that whole space. So they don't have to be like perfect circles or perfect shapes. I'm kind of just going around and making weird blobs that they're not really ever touching anything else.
Or they
So I'll
don't
hold
touch
it.
each other.
No.
Oh.
So, oh, went a little bit darker there. Yeah, so they don't touch each other. And I just add in as many as I can to this area. So this is more of a fan coral shape. None of these corals are like exactly like scientifically accurate. We are in a more cartoon style for a drawing, so yeah. And I'm going to do this to both pieces here.
So you're filling them in completely?
Yes.
Okay.
So we will be doing the same sort of shapes for this little group of corals here, but these two are going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to go over this shape again, doing these, and then we'll pause for a bit and then move on to these two shapes. So for these ones though, because we can see sort of the bottoms of them, I'm going to add a little like triangular shape to the base. And that'll be how it kind of connects to the floor of our, well, our seafloor. And then from there, I go in with the squiggly outline shape and add in those shapes on the inside. And I'm doing that to all three of these shapes here. So from here, we're going to move on in just a second. We're going to be doing these two corals, and we're going to be starting out with this one, as it's a little bit easier. Well, they're both pretty easy, I guess. All right, so we're going to move on to this shape here, and we're going to start with the same squiggly outline as the last one. It's a little bit less like deep of squiggles. They're very like shallow in a way, if you know what I mean. So let me try and explain here. So rather than doing lines like this, when I say shallow, I mean like this. So these are more like deep lines and these are more shallow lines. That's what I mean when I'm saying that. So from here, we're going to add in squiggly lines, and you want to make these pretty random, and we're connecting them to the outside on either end of the squiggly line. And that's how we are filling our shape here. And these lines don't touch each other either. So I'm not having any of them like touch or meet in any point like that. So I'm keeping my lines pretty random and I'm just filling up this space. And I'm going to just erase this front corner because this rock is in front of it. So our next coral shape here, we are going to be keeping as a rounded shape. So I'm just going through and adding a little bit of a darker pencil line to that. And I'm going to be adding a lot of little circles. So it doesn't really pop up very well on the video, but I'm just adding in a bunch of circles. None of them are touching, very similar to the other corals we were doing, but I'm just filling this space. I'm trying to keep it more random, and yeah. So we're going to be moving on to some other coral shapes to add on here. So we're going to be starting with adding in some tube coral over here. And so I'm starting by adding in some rectangles. So I'm having them kind of like pop out from behind things. We're going to add one here as well. And they're kind of like almost rounded in how I draw the shape. And I also have the base of it be a little bit thinner than the top of it. And you can add some thinner ones that overlap. Or just adding in lines behind to show that there's some behind there. This one that I put in front, you can see has quite a bit of pencil like on the inside of it. So I'm just going to go and erase that. And yeah. So the final step for these corals is just adding an oval at the top, like so. So I'm just adding in ovals at the top like that. So we're going to be adding in 2 more things, and then we are going to be adding in our fish. So we're going to be adding in some like seagrass or kelp if you, yeah. And then we're going to add in just a little bit of coral on this side. So the kelp that I draw is very simple. I start with a sort of squiggly line like that. It can kind of go in whatever direction or have like no squiggles or a lot of squiggles. Yeah. And then I add in another line that I just follow down towards the base. And these you want to kind of cluster together like coral. So I'm going to add in 2 or 3 here. Adding in some different wavy shapes. Like so. Having them at different heights. I'm going to add in some here as well. And I'm also going to add some just in the front here. A couple of shorter pieces. So the last type of coral we are going to do on this side is very similar to how we made the landscape here. So I'm going to start by adding in some sort of like wavy shapes. And I'm not drawing in one of the sides. You can see I'm just adding in those shapes like that. So I'm not adding in the right side as we're going to be drawing in some lines and then connecting them together. So we're going to add in sideways lines like the floor. So I'm going to draw them downward by quite a bit and then connect those lines to that. That sideways line that we added in. So I'm going to add in some slanted lines like so, and kind of connect them together. And that one just goes to the floor there. So this is our base sketching done. We're going to add in some fish, and then we will move on to our inking. So most of the fish I added in are quite cartoony or simple. I'm going to go over two larger fish, and then we're going to be doing most of the smaller fish the same. So the main kind of way to draw the small fish that we will be doing is just with an oval and then a triangle shape coming off the back. So this is our main formula for a lot of our smaller fish. And what you want to do with smaller fish is kind of keep them very close together, as lots of smaller fish school in the ocean. Otherwise, they all get eaten. So, yeah. So the way that I like to start is just by adding in all of the ovals that I would like to an area. So I start by adding in a bunch of different sizes, a couple of like thinner ones or shorter ones. And I just add them in kind of a blob of circles. I then go through and I add in all the tails. Like so. And you can also add in some like eyes or some bottom fins to things. You can add some top fins as well, but I'm just adding on like little triangles or like really long triangles on top. And yeah. So this is the nice thing about working in a more cartoony style is things don't have to be very detailed or very correctly drawn. Yeah. So I'm going to add another blob of fish here, and then we will add in our bigger fish. So once again, going through and adding in a bunch of different ovals. And you can have them a little bit further apart or a little bit bigger. And then just adding on those triangles for the tails. So I'm going to go over the shape and way to draw the bigger fish. And yeah, so we're going to be starting off with one kind of near the top of our page. And I'm starting off actually with a rectangle. So I'm adding in, it's got more like rounded corners, but we're starting with a rectangle shape. So to add to this rectangle shape, we're going to use a bunch of triangles to make up the rest of our fish. So I'm starting by adding a triangle on the front like that. Keeping the front of it rounded quite a bit, like how we drew the rocks. I'm also going to add in triangles for the fin. So these triangles are a little bit different than what we've been drawing. They're a little bit pointier and a little bit more like thin in a way. Yeah, and I'm drawing these to the bottom and the top of our fish here. So the next step is going to be adding in a back fin, and I'm going to add in a very rounded triangle here. So we're adding one more triangle, and it's just going to be in almost the middle of the body here. And I'm actually going to make it a little bit of a rectangle shape. So having it taper towards this side a lot, but having it a little bit more rectangular in shape. So the last two steps, we're just going to round out this top corner here. So I'm going to be connecting that top fin to the front of the face like so. And then we are actually going to be adding in the face as well. So I'm going to start by adding in a line for the gills of the fish and a circle for the eye, like so. And just to finish off this fish, I'm going to be erasing some of our rectangle here. I'm going to leave these lines as they separate the fin from the body of the fish. So we're going to be leaving those, but just erasing that top corner and the line that goes through the face. And you can add kind of whatever pattern you want to this one. I often add like stripes to the fins. You can add stripes to the body. I went to a fish store the other day and there was a fish that had stripes and spots. So you can kind of make it look however you want. I'm going to add in a few spots like so. I own a fish tank and one of my fish looks like it has tiger stripes almost. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to add in another fish here. It's going to be a little bit different than what I showed in my example drawing for this week, but it's not going to be much different. I'm just kind of turning it around. And to start off, I'm going to add in a rounded oval shape. This side is a little bit on the pointier side, and that's where the tail is going to go. And the top of it is just a bit more round than the bottom. So from here, we're kind of going to go in the same way we did this one, just adding in a lot of triangles to fill out our shape. So I'm going to start with a triangle on the back of our fish, like so. And you can see I'm drawing over this kelp here, and that's just so I can see kind of what I'm doing. I'm going to erase this line here in a little bit, but I like to see what I'm doing and then erase things I don't need. So to this triangle, we're actually going to add another triangle, going from each point into another one there, like so. So I'm going to add in a triangle for the fin, and I'm starting out by just adding a line. We're about like a third into the body here on this side, and just adding in a little line like that to have a triangle-ish rectangle shape coming out of it, like so. And then doing that same second triangle. I'm going to make this fin just a little bit bigger as it's a bit short. So to do that, I'm just extending those lines like so, and then adding in that bottom triangle. And the last things we're going to be adding is a bit of a rectangle shape on the back of this. So I'm adding 2 slanted lines on the body like so, and then connecting them with a rounded line that follows the body shape here. And we're going to add in the same face as we did on this one. So adding in those gills at the bottom, and then a circle for the eye. And just like the other fish, you can add whatever sort of patterns you want to it. Adding in stripes to the fins. And maybe like a stripe going across the body like that. So we might go a little bit over time just as we took a bit of time to start today. Probably going to about 3:45-ish instead of 3:30. I just wanted to say that as we're a little bit behind the time that I would like, but I'm glad that we got everything figured out in the start. So the final thing that we are going to be adding in is a starfish. So I'm going to add in, you can do like this star shape if you need, but just adding in a star down at the bottom here. So you want to make the points of your star a little bit more like rounded in a way. But yeah. And this here is all of our pencil done. So from here on out, we will be working with our ink pens. Yeah. So for lots of the fish, I would suggest using a little bit of a thinner brush if you have one, just as it's a little bit easier to get those details. But like I said in the beginning, I will be using the bold brush for most of it. Yeah. The other way that you could be doing this class as well is with an actual brush and some dip ink. So that's what I usually do is I use actual brushes. So I use like black ink and like a brush like this, and I will do what we're doing with brush pens with actual brushes, and it's really fun to learn. It's very challenging to learn, but yeah.
The Indian ink, is it that you use?
Yes, I use, this is the brown that I use. I use the Speedball stuff, but it is India ink, yes. It's very fun. But like I said, it's very challenging to learn. I've been doing it for a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I'm still not very
Learning.
great at it. Yeah. So that's why I decided to use the pens instead, as they're much easier and less of a mess. So I'll just wait for a second and then we will get started on our inking.
Are you
So-
using a very fine pencil?
My pencil is a 0.5.
Yeah, okay.
So
Nice to be.
I use a lot of traditional pencils, like wooden pencils, for if I'm just sketching in pencil. So the thinner it is, the thinner your lines will be, and I like to use thinner lines if I know I'm going to be inking a lot. So I'll use a 0.5. Sometimes if I'm drawing, I'll use a 0.1 or a 1. But yes, I like to keep it a little bit of a thinner pencil. But if you have traditional pencils, it's like the same. It's just a little bit hard to get some of the thinner lines.
Well, it's hard to do it, yeah, when the pencil's bigger
Yeah.
to get the thing. Like my fish are fat.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the pencil that I always use. My dad is an artist as well, and this is the pencil that he uses as well. It's called a Kuru Toga, which is a little bit of a weird word. But they are my favorite pencils, and there's
And
lots
where
of
did you
sizes.
buy that from?
I think I got it off of Amazon. So
Amazon.
it's like the pen brand Uniball. It's
Not
that
really.
brand. Yes, I can send out a link of the pencil.
Okay.
But they're just like they're a nice weight in your hand and they're a nice feel, and yeah. All right, starting on our inking. So I'm going to be starting on our rocks and our ground here, and we're going to start just up here. And for all of these rocky shapes, I like to add as much like wobble to the lines as possible. So you can see my lines are thicker and thinner in spots, and they're a little bit wobbly, and I'm just kind of changing the pressure on my pen in order to get that effect. So I'm starting by going around and outlining the lines that I have. So outlining that, and then outlining this one in the back here. And I'm going to outline most of my rocks to start off with before adding texture to them. So I'm going through and I'm outlining all of the rocks I have here. Like so, I'm going to outline the ones in the front here as well. And from here, I'm going to add some texture to the rocks. So I'm going to add, very similar to what we did last week, of adding in some random lines like so, and then adding in a bunch of different textures like lines and dots. So like I said, adding as much texture as you possibly can to things is when inking looks the best. So I'm also going to go around near the bottom and thicken up a lot of my lines, going around where it would be behind another rock as well, and just adding in some shadows. And I'm going to do this process to all of my rocks here. So adding in those lines and textures. And this back rock here, I'm adding quite a bit of shadow to it, just because it's behind a lot of things. So I'm just going around where my pencil is and adding in quite a lot of a shadow. And I'm going to do the same for the rocks in the front, adding in shadows and texture. And the other thing you can do is if you have big spaces like this, you can add in a bunch of little like squiggly triangles to be some more rocks or some different shapes. Just adding in things. Yeah. So from here, I'm going to add in the outline of our like seafloor area, and I'm keeping my pen kind of very loose so I get a little bit of an odd shape to the edge of my part here. So I'm moving it quite quick in some spots and smoothing it out in others, and I'm just going around the edge of these lines. And I'm going to do the same on the other side as well. And to finish off these clips, I'm going to add in these diagonal lines. And you want to hold your brush a little bit flatter and add in quite a lot of these lines going down. And you can add in some thinner lines for some variation, like so. So from this point onward, we're going to be mainly just following the pencil we have and just adding in lots of texture. So the rocks and things, we didn't add a whole lot of detail to in our sketching, and we added that in with our inking, but lots of this, as we already have it done in pencil, we're just going to be kind of following what we have down on the paper and then adding in texture as we go a little bit as well. So we're going to be moving on to the coral in just a second, and we're just going to be following our lines. So yeah.
Oh.
So we're going to be going in the same sort of order that we did with penciling the coral in, and I'm just going to follow the lines that I added in. So starting out with that outline, and then going around each of the shapes inside. And this part, you almost want your lines to meet in between, as we're making it a little bit of like, how do I say, we're kind of wanting those areas between the pencil lines that we did to be filled in like that. How do I explain? Yeah, so you want to fill in the gaps between your shapes rather than just outlining them. I'll hold it up in just a second to show you a little bit more of what I mean. So you can see I'm filling in those lines between the pencil that we've put in. So that is what I'm doing instead of just like outlining. If that makes sense. So I'm going to do this to all of the fan corals that we've done. So the 3 at the front as well, I'm going to do the same thing to. So the other corals we're going to do quite similarly in just kind of going with the pencil we have. So I'm going to be just following these squiggly lines for the next one, but I'll just wait for a minute before we move on.
Sort of. Page up again. See what the temperature is. We did. There's no thermometer. Thank you. What's the temperature now? I don't know. There's no thermometer.
All right, so this next one, like I said, we're just going to be following the lines that we did, going around the outside. And then adding in those lines. So for this other coral, I'm going to follow the outline of it and fill in the circles that we drew. So I'm going to go over the tube coral now, just following those top circles and the lines on the outsides, and then adding on different like stripes and texture to the sides of it. And I'm doing this for both little bits of this type of coral. So I'm now going to finish off this last piece of coral here, and we're going to do it similarly to how we did the edge of the reef, but I'm going to use smooth lines rather than jagged ones. So I'm just tracing out those lines like so, and then adding in this texture to the diagonal lines that we added in. So most of it will be filled in as it's quite a small space, but just adding in a little bit of that texture there. And I'm going to just add in a couple of lines like that. So I'm going very lightly with my pen and just kind of following the outside line of it and adding in some shapes or some texture, I guess. Yeah. And for the kelp and the fish, I do suggest using a little bit of a thinner brush. So I will be switching to a medium brush from now to the end. And it's just so I can have a little bit more of easy thin lines. So you can get the same thin lines with the thicker pen. It's just easier to keep those lines thinner if you're using a more fine pen. So if you have the fine version of this pen, I would suggest using that. But I'm going to be using the medium one. Sydney, that looks great. That looks awesome. Yeah, so for the kelp we're adding in, we're following those lines just like our pencil. And then I also like to sometimes add in a middle line to it. Just like that. Yeah. So I'm doing this to all of the kelp on my page, just following the lines that we had made. So the nib of my medium pen is actually broken, so I'm not getting the thin lines that I was telling you we were going to be using. So I will be switching back to the bold brush pen. Yeah. So something with brush pens is if you press really, really hard down on them, they do sometimes break, and then the felt of it is not great to draw with anymore. So it's not as easy to get thin lines with a brush like that. I'd say that's my only like drawback of brush pens is that they are very easy to break. Yeah, so I'm also going to outline my starfish now, just as that's our simplest fish that we added in. I don't know if it's a fish or not, but aquatic life, I guess.
Call from Jen M. Call from Jen M.
And I'm going to outline my fish now. So like we've been doing, I've just been outlining the shapes and just following the pencil that we put in. So the more detailed your pencil is, the less work you have to do with your inking. Last week we did mostly inking and a little bit less pencil, and this week we did a little bit more pencil. Yeah. So just showing you guys the different ways of using an ink pen. Yeah, I think we will be doing this for at least 3 more weeks. I can't remember what I had planned out. Yeah, so we'll be doing this for a couple of more weeks. Do you guys have any like requests of things you'd like to draw? Do you like doing the more like landscape drawings that we've been doing? If you want, we can do maybe something a little bit more realistic. That isn't my big wheelhouse, but I can try to come up with a lesson for that if you'd like. Yeah, but if you guys ever have things that you want to learn how to draw, just let me know. So I'm just finishing up all of these small fish, and then I will wait for a minute before we do the big fish, and that will be our piece. Comic figures. So that is a great thing to draw because I am actually hoping to go into comics. So if you want, we can try to do some comic figures. I can try to make a lesson for that. We could also do, if you guys are all interested, we could do more of a cartoon like unit or something if you'd like. We could do it for a couple of weeks. Yeah, so comic-y things and like cartoon things are definitely something I love doing. So if you guys are interested in learning that, then I am happy to teach it. Yeah, so from here we're going to go on to our bigger fish, and I'm going to follow all of the pencil that we put in place. So I'm starting with the outline of my big shape, just going around everything, and then going in and adding the details. So I'm going to add in these lines that separate the body from the fins as well, and adding in those lines I added on the fins. Adding in the eye and the small fin here, and the pattern I added to it. I'm also adding just a little bit more to my pattern, adding some smaller dots and a little bit more texture. And I'm going to follow the same formula for the other fish as well. Just going over those outlines, starting by outlining everything. And you can see I'm going behind that kelp with my outlines as well. So this is our lesson for today. This is our end product. Something I would suggest doing if this was a piece that I was making a little bit more detailed, I would add things like more rocks around. So adding just little bits like this, and adding in even some like sandy or rocky textures to the bottom of, or to the floor of our drawing here, adding in things like that, adding in more fish. You could add in bubbles as well, which are so fun to do with a thick brush pen, as it is quite difficult. Adding in things like that. You could also color this as well. I mainly use alcohol markers for when I'm coloring things like this. So these are nice ones off of Amazon that I got really cheap. You cannot see the name of them, but they color just like any other marker. And I really like using markers for coloring things like that. If you do this on watercolor paper, it's fun to paint as well. I would just test your outlining marker first to make sure it's able to be drawn on or able to be painted on with water. Not all markers are waterproof. I believe these ones are. Yeah, so just adding in some different textures and stuff all around helps just push your piece to make it look a little bit more realistic and full. Yeah.
Are you also going to give us some training on coloring?
Yes, I can if you'd like. Markers get pretty expensive, so I can try and see if there's a cheap set on Amazon that works for everyone. So the markers that I mainly use are Copic markers, and they are $9 a marker. So we wouldn't do something like those ones, but I can see if we can find some markers or pencil crayons the unit after inking, we are doing watercolor again. That's the medium we started with, and one of my favorite mediums. So that will be more on color as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we would love that.
Yeah, I thought the watercolor was really fun when we did it last year, and it's something that I know quite a bit about, so I like teaching it. Yeah.
Is it on YouTube as well, your past sessions? Because I
Yes.
missed that one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And are you
Oh,
gonna
that looks
give
great.
us the brand names?
Yes. So for watercolor, I'll send out a palette suggestion. You guys, these are looking incredible. So I'll send out things like that. I can also send out a list of some more higher end products as well if you really want to get into it. Like I just got a little some colors from a Canadian brand that are incredible. But they're a little bit more expensive. So I can send out a couple of lists, but I'll find the most like best bang for your buck palettes and things that I can find, and that's what I try to do for all the units. If you're not getting those emails, oh, that looks great. Wow. Yeah, you guys, these are
Thank you.
incredible. If you're not getting emails, you can type your email name in the chat, and I will write it down and make sure that you are getting emails with supplies and stuff like that.
And what kind of paper should we be using?
For this unit, I will grab my paper pad really quick. This is the paper that I use, Strathmore Bristol, and this is the paper I use for everything. So this isn't just like for this class. This is the paper that I'm using for the commissions I do and for the pieces I make for fun. So this is a 11 by 14 thing of paper, and it was $15. So it's really nice paper. This is what I use for here. But also, like this sketchbook, it's not the thickest paper, but it still is nice paper. Like it doesn't go through
Pretty
or
good
anything.
paper.
Yeah. And this is Canson sketchbook.
Hi, teacher. I want dollar store. I bought that one. Okay.
Yeah, that one's great.
Yeah,
How about
$75,
this?
40 piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, thick. Okay.
Yeah. So whatever works for you guys. The Strathmore mixed media is good as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So any paper that you guys can get, markers and things are great on most things. I would suggest putting paper underneath some thinner paper just in case. But yeah.
So
Oh, you're
what's the
coloring
difference
it.
between Bristol and mixed media?
So Bristol is for like pens and things specifically, and mixed media you can watercolor on, you can paint on. It's just more applicable to other things, not just pencil and pens.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is the end of my lesson for this week.